Good evening, everybody. My name is April, and I'm with Clear Path for Veterans New England. Good to see everybody this evening. So for those of you that have been with us live over the past few months, we are talking about effective communication strategies for PTS, and it's kind of a series that we've built up to. So just some housekeeping. We are live here on Facebook, and we are live on YouTube. Please do feel free to leave questions and comments in the chat. We're always excited to say hello, drop your name and where you're viewing us from tonight. And also, if there's any questions along the way and you are catching the replay, feel free to just leave a comment. We will absolutely get back to you. And good news is that if you go to our videos tab on our Facebook group, you get to see all of our past Thrive series live streams we've done. So kind of, as I said, we've kind of gone and piggybacked and built on talking about different strategies to help with PTS and different experiences. So please do go back and look at those videos. So I'm really excited to introduce to you, we have two of our favorite people that are with ClearPath and on our team here. We have Michael Mullen. He is the program development and peer support specialist. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, April.
Nice. And we have Kelly Radcliffe. She is our outreach peer support coordinator as well. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Awesome. You know, Kelly, I love, this is, I think, your third stream, right?
Yep.
You're like a pro now, right?
Yeah, I'm getting up there.
Like pros. All right. So what I would love for you to just share is a little bit about kind of your role with ClearPath, what you're doing to support veterans and their families, and kind of just a little bit about your service, because, you know, we appreciate your service and all that you've done. And thank you to all our heroes that are watching tonight as well. We appreciate you and your service. So I'm going to let you take it away, Michael.
All right. Well, again, my name is Michael Mullen. I am an Army combat veteran. I served 3 years in the Army on active duty with the 101st Airborne. I served as an infantryman. I've got one deployment under my belt to Afghanistan, 2010, 2011. And I am working in the capacity of program development here at ClearPath. But basically what I do is a lot of techie data stuff. I run a lot of numbers, and I try and get a lot of data from both what we're doing and from the community that we're serving. I also operate in a peer capacity, and yeah, I'll hand it off over to Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Ratcliffe. I was also in the U.S. Army. I was in for 8.5 years as a military police officer. I know, evil, but I enjoyed it. I loved it. I deployed to a lot of places. I was active duty, so I went to Hungary, Bosnia, Korea, 2 tours in Iraq, 03 to 04 and 05 to 06. Now I just recently graduated college, and I got a service dog through ClearPath. That's how I found them. And I started working with them as an outreach peer specialist, and I work at the main desk greeting everyone and, you know, making sure that they're in his amazing data system. So yeah.
Awesome. You know what, before we kind of get into our conversation, you brought up a great thing, Kelly, our service dog program, and both of you have one of our service dogs for ClearPath. So I would love for you to, each of you share kind of your dog's name as well as kind of the program, because I think, you know, at ClearPath, if you go to our website, clearpathne.org, you will see we have a lot of different programs, and this is just one of them. And I love how you're not only do you help support veterans and their families, but you also have some of the support systems that we offer. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. The ClearPath, so my dog's name is Fitch. He's a little over 2 years old. We graduated just this past fall in 2020. He's an amazing dog, completely changed my life. I don't know where I would be if I didn't have him. My dog is actually dating Michael's dog, so they have little crushes on each other. It's really adorable. They get really excited and really happy when they see each other. It's really cute. So yeah, it's great to be able to have a dog in an office. And then especially as a service dog, if any issues arise, you're able to address them because we're all in the same building. So we can just talk right then and there with the, you know, head trainer, Cindy, who's amazing and always has such great advice, and Nicholas Nadeau, who's in charge of the entire dog program. it's amazing to be able to have that in a workplace. And, life-changing. I've had Fitch almost a year now, so it's been pretty amazing.
Awesome. How about you, Michael?
So it's hard to top Fitch because I've known Fitch longer than I've known Maggie. And Fitch is a wonderful dog. I love that dog so much. And I'm so happy that he got paired with Kelly. I'm very happy about that. But Miss Maggie's actually trying to get into my room right now as she's hearing her name called. She's a yellow lab. She's just over 8 months old now.
She's a pup.
Yeah,
well, they're
she's
really
still
both
pup.
still pups.
Yeah, but she's in training. She's basically, essentially what it boils down to, she gets trained 40 hours a week for the amount of time I'm in the office. And that carries over to when I'm home. But speaking of, the topic tonight with communication strategies, one of the things that Maggie's being tasked with for me is to pick up on my body language. And when I'm in my own head, stressing out or overly anxious, not being present where I can be an effective communicator. And she actually is being trained up to come up and jump up on my lap and nudge me out of it and make sure that I'm nice and grounded. She also helps out when I'm a little irritable or angry or upset, and when I can't be an effective communicator in that aspect. And she's just a wonderful dog, doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing, and she's on the right track. And I can't speak highly enough about our program and the positive impact that it's had on myself and other veterans like Kelly.
Yeah.
But we also offer, basic obedience trainings. And if you are a veteran or a immediate family member of a veteran, you'll be able to come in and provide that or get that service, that level of training that your dog may need.
Awesome. And maybe we can get Maggie to make a guest appearance at the end.
I'll see what I can do.
All right. Well, that's a perfect lead into our conversation that we've been having over the past few months on PTS. And tonight we're really talking about those effective communication strategies. So let's just kind of dive in. How can PTS affect communication? I think there's so many elements that the behaviors and things that happen that create this PTS element, and how does it affect communication? Because I don't think sometimes, like you just mentioned, you actually brought up a great point of how Maggie, you're training her to kind of get you out of your funk, essentially, right? And so let's talk a little bit about how it affects communication.
Well, so just like trauma can have a unique effect on every individual, trauma can have effects on every individual's communication. Trauma itself can negatively impact one's ability to process and organize information. And when we're talking about verbal communication, that audible communication coming in, trauma can really affect the brain's ability to decipher that and process it effectively. You can have memory issues associated with trauma, and that again comes into play with conversation and communication. Well, Mike, I'm just seeing your message. I'm sorry. I was being hyper vigilant to my surroundings, not paying attention to what I should be saying. And I saw your message pop up, but we'll shoot you a link, and please sign up on our website to learn more about our program.
Yeah.
So, boy, I'm going to be bringing ourselves back to this moment a little bit when I talk about some healthy tips and strategies on how to communicate. But concentration, focus, that can be really difficult either for trying to speak and express whatever thoughts or you're trying to get across, or trying to receive them. So, communication is a two-way street. There's a message sender and a message receiver. You send the message out, there should be an acknowledgement that the message is received, and it goes back the other way. It's just like radio, like talking on the radio, radio discipline. Yeah.
But with PTS, it's like you are on, let's use the radio example. You're both on two completely different channels sometimes. with PTS, emotions can overwhelm your ability to effectively communicate, whether it's in a work environment, a personal environment, or anything. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just anger, although that is one of them. Sadness, fear, shame, all of these things that we experience with PTS can have some effect on an individual's ability to communicate. You may not even see it right away. It's one of those things that sometimes you have to have it pointed out to you for you to see it, that you're actually reacting this way. So if you're not sure if you're doing it, just ask. It doesn't hurt to communicate with the people you're communicating with, if there's been any issues or anything like that.
Right. And just going right off of, if you look at a PTSD diagnosis and you look at the hypervigilance aspect, something that was trained into us from the get-go when you choose to serve your country in uniform. That hypervigilance, that always paying attention to your surroundings, that just makes distractions all the more distracting when you are trying to communicate. Again, I'm talking about distractions as comments are coming in.
Oh, that's good. So I won't put them up. I can wait till after. I don't want to, we usually put them up so I can wait.
No, it's all right. I'm actually glad they're coming in, and I'd rather pay attention to those and to those who are with us right now. So I'm just going to read off what Sue said. Husband recently diagnosed. Finally, I had noted maybe saying the same idea, but two different ways. We're thinking same result. Okay.
Communication is hard.
It is.
Yeah. I'm going to let you, with your expertise continue, but I think of Sue, like, it's perspective, right? We all have different perspectives of what communication is. And, it's, my husband doesn't have PTS, but sometimes I'm in my head thinking something and he's clearly thinking the complete opposite of what I'm thinking. And I don't know how, the communication is hard.
Right. And that, what you're talking about right there with perspective, comparing perspectives is something that I think we do as humans just naturally. It's almost like how we relate to one another. So if someone starts telling me a story about their experience in the Army, I may automatically in my head start thinking about mine and how it compares and how it might have been, harder or less hard or more traumatic or less traumatic. And it's just like, you're always trying to make a comparison to see where you fit in personally with someone else's story. Trying to tamper that down and just be present in the moment and listen to what the other one is saying is not an easy thing to do, but that is something that we want to try and cover tonight, because communication isn't just about talking. A big part of it's about listening and being an active listener.
Yeah.
So what are some of the tips to deal with PTS and improve communication?
Well, one of the biggest things I want to point out right away that we've talked about in prior segments in this series is self-monitoring and trying to be attuned with yourself and where you're at, knowing if you're in an elevated state or irritable or angry or sad. Just having that self-awareness of where you're at is going to help you effectively communicate, or at least help you cue you to know that now is not the time. And maybe I need a second before I can have this conversation.
And it's 100% perfectly okay to say, I need a minute. Even if I were to go to my boss, although my boss is, a veteran himself, but any higher person, it'd be like, I just need a minute and then I will come back and talk to you. I've done that before with people that aren't veterans, and it's always been accepted. To allow yourself to calm down before you will say something that you might regret. I have to do that when I get really agitated. I have to walk away because it goes straight from the brain right out the mouth. And that is not an effective way to communicate at all. Either is that. My dog's not bark, so I apologize for that. I have no idea why he's barking. So communication, it's okay to give yourself a minute. Come on, Petite, up. And that was it. Sorry,
Right.
I got distracted.
I do want to add, as we kind of get deeper into this conversation, what Sue had brought up a good point. Husband, he was recently diagnosed. So we're not doctors, right? So why don't we should make that disclaimer and make it clear.
No, right.
We usually do at the beginning. So I'm sorry that we did not do that. So I do want to bring that up now.
Yes, and thank you very much for underscoring that point, April, because we are not talking about this stuff as, in a clinical capacity as mental health providers. Kelly is a peer specialist and has gone through peer level training. Yeah. I have a background in mental health, but we are not talking about this like we're the end all say all experts tonight. When it comes to PTS and mitigating your own symptoms and trying to improve your own quality of life, you should always try and start by working with a credentialed, qualified, licensed individual, a mental health practitioner, a counselor, a psychologist, a therapist. What we're trying to cover tonight are just the little tips and tricks to keep handy to just try and make it that much easier and try and give yourself that much more of a chance at success in addressing these issues.
Thank you.
And it might also help you realize by you listening to this that maybe you are not communicating effectively, and it may help you realize that you may need to take another approach to your communication. So I think it's
one thing I want to circle back on that Kelly was just mentioning, though, was making sure that it's okay to walk away and pause and take a breath. On the reverse side of that, if you're having a conversation with someone, whether or not that individual is mitigating their own PTS symptoms and trying to deal with that, it is okay for the other to say, I need a moment, and walk away. It's often hard to, stop your own train of thought, especially when you have like that, whatever you want to say on the tip of your tongue, and you just need to get it out and you want to tell someone. If the other individual in the conversation needs a second, to bring themselves back down and self-regulate, let them take that second. Don't be that guy chasing them down, trying to get the last word.
Yes.
Any other tips for communication?
Well, we've got.
So for me, it's all about being respectful, non-aggressive, and open and understanding on both ends. Obviously, this isn't just a one-way street, like Michael said. Respectful is very important. With PTS, some individuals can have difficulty controlling their emotions, like I have said before. So you always want to remain respectful of any individual that you're having this communication with, whether it's someone you work with, someone you love, someone you live with, even just another person, because we are people, they're people. And, we want to be treated nicely. We want to be spoken to nicely, and we want to be communicated nicely. So it's a back and forth. It's definitely works both ways. So respect is a big thing when it comes to effective communication.
All right. Awesome. So what are some tips for those who have a partner or family member? So it's kind of that leads into that. So you're talking about respect, mutual respect. You mentioned coworkers, but also like at home and family, because, those relationships, because they're so close, sometimes we're more open to really showing how we feel or where we are, right? Any tips on how to handle that?
One thing I want to say is, regardless of the nature of what someone is sharing or talking to you about, don't shame them. Shame is such a huge aspect of trauma. And when someone is trying to express their thoughts to you, especially if there's something more, not your everyday conversation, but if I'm trying to tell you about, something that happened to me while I was in the Army or while I was in Afghanistan, or, something that I might feel my own shame about what I did in my past, don't shame them. Just try your best not to shame them. It has such a negative impact on the individual to feel that shame and have that shame being reinforced, and it's just going to cause them to further lock down and further tamper down those feelings and, isolate and not be the expressive individual that they're trying to work towards being.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say definitely if it's a husband and wife situation, although I'm not married, you both need to be in a place that's a good time for you both to talk, that you're both in a good place emotionally, as in you're both calm, you're both able to get those words out without flipping back and using hurtful language. They say never to bring back old arguments and stuff like that. And also another important thing is you have to make time to talk. You can't just kind of throw you shouldn't just, in my opinion, you shouldn't just kind of throw this big conversation when you have only like 10 minutes before you have to be somewhere. A conversation deserves the respect that conversation deserves. So you don't want to have, time limit or that pressure, that added pressure that won't help you effectively communicate.
Right. Or 15 minutes before I logged on, when my fiance Liz wanted to start up a big conversation with me, I'm like, you know what? That was probably not the best time for my own headspace, because I'm trying to get myself regulated right now so that I can go on camera and talk to, my coworkers and whoever knows, however many other people are sitting there watching. But timing's important. One thing for me I know is we've talked about my driving in the past, and my tendency to be a little bit more irritable coming out of traffic after an hour commute home. One thing that I always
not a Massachusetts thing.
I think it's just a human thing. But trying to start a tough conversation with your significant other right when they come in the door after a long day of work and a long commute through rush hour, it may not be the best time.
Maybe not.
Yeah, time is important.
I've never done it, so I wouldn't know.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. And I'm just as guilty of it as she is. And like we said earlier, we're not professionals, and all this stuff is stuff that we use and we think about, but we are not perfect, and we're always trying to improve ourselves. But we are very fallible. And
right, but you have, but you have great life experience. You understand where other veterans are coming from. So there's, I use that word perspective again, like where I am a civilian, my perspective, I don't know some of the things that you've gone through and experienced. So I can only offer a lending hand and a shoulder and an ear. But I think that's key. Although it's not medical, everyone here has experience and can relate to you and understands where you're coming from. So that's one of the best things that I love about ClearPath is that our peer support team and many other members on the team are all veterans and have the life experience that they can relate to you. So when you walk through the door, it's not like you're walking into people that have no idea and are just saying we're here. Yes, of course, everybody has a giving heart and wants to help, but they're saying, hey, I understand. We truly understand at ClearPath, which I love.
Right.
Yeah, we get a little bit of everything. All of the Army people should stick together.
Yes, wow. Big competition. Big competition.
Yeah.
I'm gonna join forces with MPs.
Oh, now watch it. All right. So Leanne asked if we had any techniques for alerting others when we have space, which is always good. I just go with honesty. I go with, I'm getting very upset right now. I need to take a minute and I need to compose myself. And then I'll just let them know that I'm just going to step away for a minute. I usually give them a time, like I'll be back in 10 minutes. Is that okay? I've never had anyone say, no, that's not okay. You must talk to me now, but it may happen. But it's weird that we're communicating to let them know that we're not able to communicate, but that's exactly what you're doing. You're going to have to communicate, because if you just turn and walk away, it will probably not end well. But just say, I need a minute, and you don't have to tell them, why you need a minute. You don't have to tell them the trauma you've experienced or anything with your PTS. You just tell them you need a minute and take your minute, because That's
Right.
better than losing your cool, or, you know, temper's a big one for me. So that's why I keep going back to it.
Right.
I will lose my cool and I have to walk away, because as an MP, we are trained to be dominant in situations to de-escalate them. We come in as a dominant, and a lot of military are. So in arguments and when we're trying to communicate, we can often try to dominate the other person. So being able to say, I need a minute, and step back so we can stop dominating the other person is always good too.
Right. And I think you hit one of the biggest points about this. When you're saying, or you need to, say out loud that you need a second, you need a minute, telling them the time frame is important. Like, don't say like, I need a second, and then leave them hanging for an hour. Or, just don't tell them, I need a little space, and then disappear for the day. I remember when I was in school and I was working around couples counseling, there's a reason why we had to underscore the importance of giving an appropriate time frame and asking for permission, like Kelly was saying, because some people are more apt to just take that as a way out of the conversation and a way to avoid it. And avoidance, again, going hand in hand with what we're talking about with trauma. You got to hold yourself accountable and make sure you're not just dipping out on the situation.
Just be like, I really want to continue this conversation, but I'm getting very upset right now and I need to take a minute for myself. I'm going to take 10 minutes and I will be back in 10 minutes and we can continue this conversation when I am more calm and more level.
And if you're talking about significant others, just laying out a ground rule, like, time out. I need time out right now. And that's, something that's mutually agreed upon before you even have a conversation, that you get that time out, you get 10 minutes.
Sure. Do you have any, so Madison was just making a comment, it's very helpful and beneficial for many to better understand ways to be there to support those who need it. Thanks for being so genuine and raising awareness. So thank you so much, Madison, for your kind words. One of the things that I wanted to ask you was, so clearly, we're talking about strategies, but at what point, communication, like I said, is difficult. So at what point should you maybe say, you know what, maybe, because when you talk about a family, maybe we do need to go to couples counseling to just get some help in working through these steps of how to better communicate together or as a family, or maybe I just need to go because I can't communicate how I'm feeling and I need some help with those tips. Do you have any suggestions of kind of when is kind of a red flag per se, or when might be a good time to say, you know what, I need some extra help because I'm not able to do this on my own?
I'm not going to go necessarily in the direction of the red flags, because red flags can be very variable.
Sure.
Some households, some families have very different dynamics and very different states of what they consider normal.
Yep.
But what I would say is, anytime that you are actually trying to improve your communication, or think that the communication between you and your spouse or your family needs to improve, it is absolutely worth a shot of mentioning it then and trying to set something up and get some professional help. Because all couples counseling is just teaching you to communicate with your spouse. And it is beneficial.
And really all therapy is you learning how to talk to yourself. So, I may not have a significant other, but I go to therapy and I learn how to communicate with myself. So I'm able to see when my communication is going to be affected, with other people and stuff like that. So Michael has the married aspect and I have the little single aspect. But yeah, it's all about communication, because you got to learn how to communicate with yourself. And if you can't, you start there. That's the easiest place sometimes to start, is communication with yourself. Are you truly being honest with yourself? Sometimes that can be a very tough question.
Right. But if you're not feeling like you're being heard, I think that's a pretty big cue right there, right then and there. And because being heard's, probably the most important part about communication for you and the other person.
one of the things I think it's important to tell our listeners and our viewers tonight a little bit about our peer-to-peer mentoring program and how you guys can help. We're having this conversation tonight, but again, you have many conversations with veterans that come through the door in that peer-to-peer group. Can you talk a little bit about that program that we offer at ClearPath?
Kelly, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So the peer-to-peer mentoring is basically it's being able to share your story and use your story to help others realize that we're all kind of going through the same things. We're there to listen. We're there not to give you advice, but to help direct you onto your own path, but to really help you figure it out. It's kind of like, I think of it as the battle buddy program. We all had battle buddies in basic training.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot like that. It's like having a battle buddy, somebody that you can bounce stuff off of, somebody that will give you advice if asked, somebody just to listen, because sometimes we all need that.
Right.
And we have so many effective communicators and peer specialists at ClearPath that we have, different individuals that would pair perfectly with almost everyone, because we have females, we have males, we have, different life changes. So there's a little bit of everything for everyone. And I think it's a great program. Being able to share your story really helps you communicate with others, because once you can be open and honest, it does help others to be open and honest.
Right. And the peer model as a whole is, having someone who's been through it, who's faced the challenges and been, walking a mile in your shoes per se, to be able to show you that they came out the other side and they're okay, and they can help navigate you get to the same spot. Nothing's impossible and no mountain's too tall. And I know that our lead peer, Brandon Burgell, he is not with us tonight, but he is a fantastic peer. And he will literally meet you where you're at if you need it. And I'm not just talking about emotionally, I mean physically. He's a good man. But we offer a lot of services and a lot of things in our peer program here that Brandon leads. I know that he leads like our Build a Flag workshop, where he takes essentially a fire team and do a woodworking shop one day, and they turn a plank of wood into one of those beautiful flags back on my wall.
Yeah.
But
I just did it. So much fun.
Yeah, it is.
I saw your picture actually the other day on Facebook, Kelly. Yeah. I did.
So
good job.
I didn't think I'd have as much fun doing it as I did. And it was great just to be able to talk with, fellow veterans and stuff like that. So it was nice. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So our friend Mike just dropped something in the chat that I just want to, I got my master's in organizational communication. Congratulations. I was telling him I just got mine too in May in the same degree. So while I effectively communicate, I've been told that I'm very blunt. How can I lose that habit? Also Army 12 Bravo.
Yeah. well, Mike, are you talking with knife hands like blunt, like get the job done right now? Or are we just talking about being very clear and concise and to the point? Because I
have a feeling it's being very clear and concise and to the point.
Right.
So one of the things that I just dropped, I just said, I think, and somebody else actually, just so you know what's going on in the chat, somebody also mentioned there's nothing wrong with being blunt as long as you consider your audience. And that's exactly what I said. Sometimes that's where the listening helps, right? And also reading people's body language of what they're really looking for. Because I think sometimes if you pay attention to that, it does help soften kind of the conversation.
Right. And it's not just about thinking about your audience beforehand. It's trying to read your audience in the moment.
Right.
And that is, again, that's a skill. That's not something you can just flip a switch and be able to do well. But trying to pick up on that body language, trying to pick up on facial cues, and just trying to stay present with what you're saying. I think that goes a long way.
But I do also think that people, when you're clear and to the point, I mean, of course, sometimes people can take it the wrong way, but I know that many people appreciate that honesty, right? Because I'd rather hear the truth and like know exactly what I'm up against than kind of going around the bend here and there and like get to the point. What do I need to do? Or how can I do this better? Or
Right. And thinking
Yeah, but
about
then you have people that hate that.
right,
So
exactly.
that's where the effective communication comes in.
Right.
And I think veterans as a whole tend to be more in that concise, direct and blunt bucket. And I know that's something that I appreciate when I'm communicating with someone. So
Well,
again,
I
it's
was
reading
raised
that
by a
audience.
Marine, so I get that. Maybe that's why I'm like used to it. Yep. Okay. All right, guys. So let's talk. Thank you so much. What are the kind of the key takeaways with communication? Let's talk about the do's of communication. What should we be doing?
Self-monitor.
Use your I statements.
Use your I statements. Never say that you're pissing me off or what you're doing and always ruins my day, blah, blah, blah. Say like,
Accusatory, sure.
I feel hurt when you say this or when you do this. I statements are huge.
And I know it seems silly and like it's been made fun of over and over and over again, those I statements, but they really do work because not only do they actually slow you down to rethink how you're going to say it in that I statement, which helps you communicate better because you're thinking about what you're saying before you're saying it. So it's a great way to kind of slow yourself down to get those right words out and to not put the blame and shame, like Michael had said earlier, which can be very, you could stop that communication dead. So,
So let's see. So we got self-monitor, self-regulate, I statements, be prepared to walk away and call a timeout. If you're going to have a conversation or if you're trying to improve conversation between you and your significant other or someone in your family, set up those ground rules of a timeout.
focus on the positive.
Focus on the positive. Yes.
Focus on the positive. Yep. If it's a husband and wife, spouse, couple, anything like that, you don't want to be like, I hate you when you drink. Like that's an I statement. I hate you when you drink, kind of. But you want to be like, I like to spend time with you when you're sober. See how that's a different type of communication. One's about positive and one is about negative. So you definitely want to keep it as positive as you can.
Right.
Sorry.
I was going to say, try and keep away from distractions. Put down your phone, turn off the TV, turn down the radio. Make sure you're in the same room, not shouting from across the house. And keep in mind the timing. Keep in mind what's going on with the other person's day.
And what would be some of the don'ts?
There was
some kind of don'ts in there. There was some kind of don'ts in there, right? But
don't interrupt.
No,
sorry. I'm sorry.
Now.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I would say for relationships is definitely don't fight angry. Take that, like we take that minute in time, even if you're in a discussion with someone in a professional manner, you don't want to be angry and letting it go out. So give yourself that minute. I think that's very, very important. It's not only respecting you, it's respecting the individual you're speaking with, because you're like, I need a minute before this ends badly. So I think it's a very respectful way to continue the conversation, but safely and properly.
Right. How about do monitor your body posture, or don't hold yourself in a combative or defensive body posture. Like if my fiance is trying to come at me with some topic that is important and then she wants to have a good conversation about it, I'm not just going to be sitting there crossing my arms, crossing my legs, like not giving her eye contact. Make sure you're monitoring your body posture.
Yep.
And one thing I'll say is try and listen beyond the words. Words only go so far. About 90% of communication, I think, is nonverbal. And there's always a deeper meaning and context in what someone's saying than the mere words that they're using to get the message across.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And the don'ts can be so many. It's hard to focus on, specifically what don't you do, because obviously you don't. think of it as effective communication. A good way to think of, or that I think of effective communication, especially in the work environment, I think of it a lot like the military. In the military, you have people of certain rank, and you are respectful of the rank ahead of you. In the workplace is exactly the same. So you should always be respectful, non-aggressive, and open and understanding in any form of communication. And those are three pretty safe bets to get you through a conversation.
And one last don't be too hard on yourself, and don't be too hard on yourself for not being the most effective communicator in the world right away after, trying to decide to improve your communication. Nobody's perfect, and everything takes work that's worth time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Michael, Kelly, friends. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you for your service. And if you are interested in learning about, or if you know a veteran or a loved one who is in need of support, or looking to get together with other veterans, we have lots of different programs. Or if you're interested in giving some time and volunteering to one of our programs, please do stop by our website at clearpathne.org. We would love your help. We would love to meet you and talk to you. We have lots of great events, and you're here either on our Facebook page, so that's great. If you're watching us, don't forget to go above this video and like us, give us some Facebook love, and share this with your friends. And one last thing before we leave, can we get to see the puppy faces? Can we see Fitch and Maggie quick?
Fitchy, come here.
Not that they're going to take away your thunder of this evening, but.
All right, Fitchy.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Where are you?
Hey, Fitch.
It's so hard to see because he's black.
He's so black.
Hold on,
Nobody. He's so.
I'll get him to come up to me. Come here, Fitchy. Oh, you're so big. So this is my baby Fitch.
Oh, hey, Fitch.
Say hi, Fitchy.
Hi,
He says,
buddy.
Mom, I'm sleeping.
Yeah, Miss Maggie's had a long day of training, and she's
out.
out.
All right. Fair enough. Next time we'll have to catch her. But thank you guys so much. And thanks for sharing Fitch with us. And thank you for sharing all of your great information and your insights. And please, friends, do drop by our website or reach out via email, info@clearpathne.org. Thank you for everybody again. And if you are in the replay, do leave us a comment. We promise we will get back to you. And everybody have a great evening, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much for watching.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.